Liz Ward's here with us from Tourism Tribe and also Digital Coaching International. Liz, at least I've known for the whole 4 years I've been at Tourism &T, and as she's worked in many places over the last 20 odd years or so, but certainly at ATDW, which has been talked about, the Australian Tourism Data Warehouse, as the CEO there. A few stints in Tourism Queensland, is that right, as well, amongst other things, and now has set up a really interesting solution called Tourism Tribe, which will start to point towards an example of a solution that we might all consider as part of a digital leap program. But before we do that, we're going to do a session straight after Liz's presentation where I will actually get all the our guest speakers' home tables to actually stay in the one spot, so you won't be rotating between tables. We'll sit in the one spot just to kind of keep it a bit easier. And what you're going to see here is some stats which have come out of the digital health checks that some of the people here have done prior to turning up, which will give you a bit of a view about where some of those focus areas might be, what some of the things that are quite important. So I'll hand over to Liz and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. That's fantastic. So how many of you did the digital checkup on Tourism Tribe? Thank you so much for doing that. The reason that's so incredibly important is that it sets us up then, as Adam said, to move into the next session, but much bigger than that, because when you're setting a strategy, which I reckon that's where you're going to end up with in a very short period of time, is where you want to get to with this digital leap, where you want to get to and how you want to get there. You need to know where you are now. So the digital checkup has been developed to be able to give individual businesses a bit of a quick report card based on what they say they are doing now in the digital space. And also it's about benchmarking for industry sectors or destinations, which is what we were able to do when by Sunday there were 50 people across the NT who had done the digital checkup. So that was over that sort of critical number we needed to get to make the data meaningful, which was really good. So we can then say by region compared to the rest of Australia, the collective 400 people who've taken the digital checkup, where roughly the NT sits in terms of digital capability. And of course, it's when people are willing to do that kind of assessment, it means that they are open to change and wanting to learn, which is a fantastic kind of cultural shift as well. So let's share some of the data with you. I thought it was really interesting, and I had brilliant nerd moments playing in Excel with the data on Sunday. But what this graph is showing you is that the orange bars are NT operators and the blue are other operators across Australia who've done it. Along the bottom, 0 to 25, 25 to 5, 0.5 to 0.75, what they are is percentage scores out of a possible 100. So in a perfect world, all Australian tourism operators would be in that last section on the right of 75% to 100%. That's where it'd be great if the Australian industry looked like that and they were doing all these best practice things. What you can see is that most of the Australian operators sit between 25% and 75%. And that the NT isn't terribly different to the rest of Australia. Lagging a bit so the orange bar's a little bit shorter in the second area, 25 to 50%. So there's less in there. That's good if there's less in that lower bit. In the next one, we've got between 50% and 75%. We've got more NT operators there, and then we've got less in that higher area. So I think this speaks very much to Dana's comment that you can see collectively not everyone's at that really highest percentile. That's where we'd like to get to. NT's trailing a bit there. But remembering these are nearly all small regional businesses, so you're not alone in this challenge. We want to get everyone moving up the line. And in a year, if we ask you to take this again, we'd expect to see that if things are working and we're doing the Digital Leap program, whatever that's going to consist of, that everyone has moved up the line. In terms of sector, I thought this was quite interesting because we ask you whether you're accommodation, attractions, etc. And what we're looking for here, we want as many people as possible to have that yellow bar, which is 75% to 100%. And you can see in the first one that for accommodation, there is a lot in that 50% to 75%. And then you see that again in tours over on the far right-hand side. There's more in that in that, you know, third percentile. And so what we really want to be able to do is see a lot more come up with that growth in the yellow bar. The other categories, so attractions, there's nobody who scored between 75 and 100%, and all the other categories as well. Food and drink seems to be some challenges there. Tourism services. So, you know, there's some areas there for focus in terms of sector, but you know who you are and you'll have a sense of whether this rings true for you when you look at these things and where you sat. Some highlights. So these is when I really looked at the questions and how they were answered, these were some of the key things that jumped out at me that I wanted to share with you. Reviews, that's an area where there is, you know, great practice in terms of people's focus on this area. So we've got 78% of businesses monitor review platforms. That's great. 81% thank all reviewers. I'm sure that Jess would be very proud of you to see that number. And 64% ask guests to create a review. So there's an opportunity there, but it's still, you know, it's still a tick. I thought that was really good. Website's mobile friendly, and this is your opinion of whether you think your website's mobile friendly. It's not tested using, you know, online tests that you can do where Google tests it for you. But only, I put a tick against it because 69%, but obviously that's 31% that aren't. So that's an issue. We've seen growth. I think 4 years or so ago, Tourism NT had a project around really motivating operators to implement instant booking, and I think it was only 30% at that stage. Now it's at 64%, so that's tremendous growth over that period, but still opportunity. And 61% monitoring website visitor statistics, so looking at analytics. Once again, opportunity there for a lot more to do it, but still that's pretty good. I've starred these things because I think these are, you know, standout areas of opportunity. So 83% are doing no blogging or fortnightly updates to their website, and content, as you heard from both Dana and Neil, is such a critical part of being successful online. 75% no search engine optimisation. That's still incredibly important. Yes, you've got to get all your Google stuff sorted as well, but you've still got to also understand the factors of that, and it has changed a lot over the years. Video, missed opportunity, and not putting those, you're doing great work on the reviews, but you're not integrating them onto your website as much as you could, with only 50% doing that. E-marketing. General term, but the questionnaire drives at email marketing, and you heard Dana talk about how that's a very good return on investment for her businesses that she looks after. 78% don't have an email marketing system, huge opportunity. 64% don't collect all customer inquiry email addresses. That's the one thing when we're running workshops and training and things, we say, don't let that data slip through your fingers. That's your opportunity to engage. And you can see some other points there. Social, you all put your hands up before, almost all of you. 97% have a Facebook business page, and I found that when I last visited the Territory and was in Darwin, and I was looking for some case studies. Heaps and heaps of Facebook business pages, and I find this in regional Australia. And this is my anecdote, the second one, is that there is a lack of strategy and consistency around how they are managed. So there's a lot of people trying different things, a bit ad hoc, they'll post now and then, but there's no strategy around it. And just some things picked up from the survey, 78% of businesses aren't informing customers of hashtags, as Neil referenced, and I loved it on the driftwood, whether that was photoshopped or real. Neil, doesn't matter, it was good. Fantastic, having the hashtag on the driftwood, very creative. And a video, 72% don't have a YouTube account, so that's an indicator of your commitment to video. So that's it, and as Neil showed you, it's not that hard, but it does take time, and we're going to discover soon what those obstacles are.
Thank you very much, Liz. It's awesome to have those stats there. It's a fantastic way to actually segue into this little next section.
So my business partner, some of you may know, anyone know Fabian Wintle? Ever worked with her before? Oh, Neil does. So I remember she and I years and years and years ago presented in Alice Springs and Darwin together. But anyway, Fabi and I are business partners, and we both have worked in the digital space, technology and tourism for a long time, and she's an excellent educator, trainer as well. And we wanted to come up with a solution for the tourism industry, especially for regional tourism operators particularly, because we recognised that knowledge was a very important part of being able to improve your business, and that the knowledge required to keep up with the opportunities in the digital space is it's forever changing. And we were looking at all of the efforts that different people make in terms of running workshops and attending workshops and getting grants and having new websites built and things like that, and said there's got to be more that can help an operator really be able to continue to improve and to be able to implement what they learn when they go to a workshop, because typically what we'd hear is they'd go back to work, get busy, and then just didn't have the support or the time to be able to implement those things. So we developed Tourism Tribe. That was the brainchild, which is a support platform that connects you with experts. So there's a lot of people in there who are digital and tourism experts, connects you with each other tourism operators, and you can ask questions in forums and hear what other people say, and that's very active, particularly over the last couple of months. It's just going nuts with all sorts of questions operators are asking. And we moderate that and make sure you get answers. We run a help desk, we have an online chat, and we also have 70 odd tutorials that you can learn from, and also a lot of articles and things that have been written by experts that are all searchable. So it brings together, within a tourism context, a lot of learning and support, and very much on an online community basis. So what Adam asked me to do is just to show how there is one particular business who is an early adopter. She was one of the first members of Tourism Tribe. She has a business in regional Australia, Jetty Road Retreat, and I just thought I would show you just how she's making use of it. Well, first of all, what she says. So I'll just quickly read this. Tapped into expert advice via Tourism Tribe last year when we expanded our business with an additional accommodation product. This was used to develop a website strategy, which has served us well over the past 12 months. Online training forums, I've participated in around 4 to 5 over the last 12 months and found them a great way to gain insights to topics which are relevant to our business. The ability to access recorded sessions for those I was unable to attend was a great feature. Have used the forum on a couple of occasions to seek advice from fellow operators, resulting in improved business efficiencies, e.g. password management, e-commerce solutions. So that was, I just asked Kim how specifically she'd found it useful. Now I'll just show you some of the things that Kim does, and she ticks a lot of the best practice boxes. As we heard this morning, no one is at 100% or doing absolutely everything right. It's impossible to be there. But I think from a website perspective, she does tick a lot of those boxes in terms of using big, beautiful quality images that immediately tell you about the experience of staying there. You don't immediately see pictures of rooms or kitchens. You see the experience of staying at her place. She's on the Gippsland Lakes. She has the ability for booking on every page. She has the ability to contact on every page. Just some of the simple things, but must-haves. She also is committed to excellence, and she has all of her, her TripAdvisor certificate and her tourism awards badges there, which is fantastic. So she's profiling those. She has a whole gallery of images, so she's invested very heavily in time, particularly to make sure those images are available for customers. She has a blog on her website which she updates regularly. Now, a couple of years ago when we were providing advice to the tourism industry, we weren't telling every operator they needed a blog on their website, but now we are. Because of the way that content is driving your success online, it is word-based. Of course, it has to have a great image or video as well, but it's a short word-based way to get more content out there and to keep Google seeing you as fresh and relevant in terms of the information you're providing to your target customers. She also doesn't just talk about her own business. On her website, she's got things to do in the area, more images again. So she's really talking to the experiences of travelling in the area and staying with her. Facebook, she's also ticking the boxes there. She's verified her page. See the tick on the left. She's got beautiful big images, great experience shots that she changes for her cover photo regularly, yet uses her logo for the profile shot. So she's using the real estate of Facebook well, and I know Adam's going to go into a lot more detail about Facebook this afternoon. She's using video on Facebook, and if any of you have posted video on Facebook, you would know that you generally get a lot more likes and more engagement when you use video as opposed to still images. She's also responding to reviews on Facebook as well. I just don't have a clip of that. So they were just a few kind of the quick grabs. The other thing is her Google presence. She's done all the right things there in terms of registering and updating her Google My Business listing. She's getting reviews on Google, which is helping in terms of her rankings. So she's doing the free stuff, everything she can, plus she's also doing Google AdWords, and she's in the distribution system as well. So from a comprehensive, when you think about it's, fairly amorphous, all the different bits and pieces you can do, I think she's got quite a comprehensive strategy, and she works it really consistently as well. She's a 5-star on TripAdvisor, so she knows how to deliver great service, and she also responds to every review. So why does somebody like Kim, who seems to be such a good operator, an award winner, hopefully she'll win the 3rd year in a row at the Tourism Awards in Victoria and go into the Hall of Fame this year, and she's got so much passion for her business, which is great. She sort of sounds like Neil but different. Why does she need Tourism Tribe? Why does a person like that need Tourism Tribe? Because you can also imagine there's people who are kind of slow adopters of this that get value as well. And I had to really, chat through this. Well, digital marketing is made up of a lot of interconnected platforms and strategies and tactics, and it's both creative and technical. Tourism Tribe covers all aspects of digital marketing for tourism, so we work really hard to bring all of that together into one place, including links to other useful things, how you can contact the support desk at TripAdvisor, all of those sorts of things. It's all in one place. It's a continual journey. The technology keeps changing rapidly. Tourism Tribe keeps you up to date. So we send out a weekly email. Are there any Tourism Tribe members here now? One. So do you get your weekly email and see that? So that's the digest. That is, here's some of the key articles that have been written, or we'll create an article around a really interesting forum post and give you more information about it. And we're constantly watching the changes through RSS feeds about what's changing on these platforms. You can be a do-it-yourself digital marketer like Kim, or you can be a CEO digital marketer like Neil. But if you are the one who's delegating rather than doing it yourself, you need to understand what questions to ask. So this is, just an important message I want to get through to you. You need to know how to measure your return on investment, and you need to know the important questions to ask. So you can't completely avoid getting knowledge and staying up to date. Even if you're not the hands-on person doing it. And Tourism Tribe works for both types of marketers. It has information for both. No one can be an expert at everything. That is the philosophy that underpins Tourism Tribe. It is impossible, and you're lying if you say you are. So Tourism Tribe brings the people and the resources together. So it's built on an online community so we can tap into each other's knowledge. So it's very good for people who are prepared to ask a question in a public forum or share their knowledge, and don't see everybody else as a competitor, but see that we're all working together to try to make a much better Australian and Northern Territory tourism offering. And Kim is very much a continual improvement person. That's her culture in herself and her husband and her business, and that's another reason that it works for her. So I'm going to be showing you how Tourism Tribe works, which take you into the platform later this afternoon in the session. But I just wanted to share that with you, so just to provide that little bit of a case study so you know how it's being used. Thank you.
Yeah, as we were said right at the start, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So I think Tourism Tribe is a good example of a platform and a great CEO and Liz that's trying to do new stuff and is doing new stuff, has quite a lot of members who are buying into this type of space and getting information out of it. There's people I know on the table we have who are DIY and they may or may not need a Tourism Tribe. It's up to them, I suppose. But for Digital Leap, what we're looking for, as I said right at the start, is solutions which help us to take everyone along for the ride, because we can't, as Tamara was saying, we can't afford to leave anyone behind on digital. And the reason why I got so concerned about digital when I saw Tourism Australia starting to kind of really stretch out in front of my team, which has a significant budget and significant people, and we were struggling to keep up, just like we've been talking about before as well. So, when you listen to other STOs and they have similar kind of things. So it is a bit about where you choose to play and how do you kind of get people to all come along for this ride. So the solutions we're looking for on this next page, this next half an hour or so I think we've got, is things that would work for you, but also on behalf of the industry if it can. Take yourself and think about how other people like you would have to deal with this and how it might work. What are some of those ideas? And as I said, there's no kind of wrong or right idea here. What we're looking for is really, to get the people who are managing your tables there to group your notes by things that are common. So we're expecting that have a few common things that are popular. So when you put up stuff and you have a look at it, go, yeah, I really like that idea, and tick those ones so we can see which ones you've seen as a table were quite popular. And also the different ideas, things that might be a bit odd, a bit different, a bit crazy. We're happy to see them all because there really is absolutely no agenda from a Tourism and Tea budget point of view at this point in time. It's really exciting to have an open checkbook to a certain degree. I might have to go and ask for some more money after I've seen what was on our table. That's all right.
Loads of mess on this page, but I know what it means. So I think as far as focus areas goes, our first conversation was actually about moments and trying to identify the moments for each business, and how there was a really good word there. I think it was you talked about drama, and each business has these moments of drama that they can really use to connect with their people on digital media. So that was a good one, trying to identify those moments and then worked out how to communicate them. So it was a nice kind of more of an emotional issue or challenge to deal with. So that was a good one. More of a operational one, which I'm sure is common across all the groups, but time and resource. So a lot of sole traders, a lot of small businesses here. So that's a massive challenge, and something that we definitely need support with is trying to work out how to, if you're not a specialist at something, do you need to learn to be a specialist, or can you get someone in to help you so that you can spend more time on the other areas of your business that are most important? So there was lots of different themes coming out of that around, do you have a network of specialist agencies or partners that you need to connect with, which do you outsource to other professionals? So time management and then partnerships was kind of the theme. Would you guys agree on that second one? Okay, cool. And our third one, which is definitely in our solutions area as well, was learning and training. And again, there were some great ideas that coming from here around. Right, you kind of get trained or you learn something, but then how do you document it and how do you check in ongoing on what you've learned, and how do you make sure that knowledge is stored? So documentation was a big area that we need to work through. Then that branched off into things like training your staff, and in this business there's a lot of kind of transient workforce. So how do you create a knowledge base that can be handed down to different staff along the way? Who's responsible for that? Is it the boss? Is it someone else? How do you kind of delegate those kind of things? So moments, your what we'll call your unique kind of selling proposition up here. Time management and operation, and then learning and training are our probably highlights.
Solutions.
Yep. This one's a bit neater. So some of them kind of link in. Definitely the where was it? The kind of training area. So we got talking a lot about having a real specialist support or resource to train the businesses up on like digital marketing, but they need to be almost this hybrid practitioner of tourism marketing and digital marketing. And so whether they go and travel to all these businesses, so the kind of operational side of that's something we need to work on, obviously with tourism NT, but having that more one-on-one mentoring was a word that come across a lot. So it's not just about kind of general training, but it's one-on-one, checking in milestones, strategies and plans. So that was really important. This one could be a good discussion point, but connectivity. A lot of the businesses are isolated, they're remote. We're talking about digital marketing. What's the number one thing you need for digital marketing? That's connectivity, that's access to the internet. There's black spots everywhere, power goes down, so big point for the territory, I'm sure. And third was, and this is another really good theme, around community. So all of these businesses need a network to connect with each other, and more of a private network, so that if someone has this amazing post that they put up and they want to share it with the guys to help their business, or at its most extreme, maybe we almost do a collective bargaining type deal where everyone chips in and they get discount rates on marketing solutions or a digital advertising agency. So using the power of the collective to get financial benefits, basically, but also at its most simple, a network, a Facebook group, something private to share all these learnings with. That's it. That was our top three. Yeah?
All right. Our top issue, I think, and the table will correct me if I'm wrong here, was time. So how do I have time to do all of these things? That's where the conversation started. Then it was the driver was being remote and isolated from other businesses, and also, so like businesses, but also expertise. So the example given was, I just need to get better at WordPress so that I can manage my website content better or make changes, but it's really hard to get cost-effective help locally. So that was the example given. And then I think probably the third one was around, there are so many different channels, both social and distribution channels. It's difficult to know how to prioritise because time is a very precious resource. How do we actually prioritise and make sure we're focusing on the ones that are going to be the most beneficial to us? So I'd say they were probably some of the top three. Yeah? Good. Then, thank you. We came to an idea around if, because time is a problem and it's difficult to know where to prioritise your efforts, that it would be really important that every business actually has a digital plan, and that it has been preceded by some work to understand where you are presently in terms of online presence, what is working for you, measuring the performance of your website, its functionality and effectiveness, measuring the cut-through that you're getting from different channels, and then identifying what the gaps are and developing an action plan for digital that you can then focus on. But that is supported through a mentor who helps you through that process. And the other piece, just back also that digital strategy, being linked into your business objectives. So making sure that you know where you want to take the business and how is digital going to help you, and that you have understood your customer very well. So that would be part of the pre-work to your mentor, then supporting you to develop the plan. And then some kind of ongoing process where you might do a monthly Skype session or something similar with the mentor to review analytics and check on your implementation and keep you, keep you honest and keep you on your promise and provide you with the additional advice that you might need throughout that. So we saw that as kind of the core, one of the core things in terms of a solution. And then similar to what Mitch was saying from his group, this idea of sharing with peers, possibly using the Tourism Tribe platform and having your own forum in there for the NT around the Digital Leap strategy, to be able to share, ask questions and share ideas and learnings, or, it could be moderated by some champions in the area who are, coming up with topics to discuss and making sure that you're getting the answers you need from various experts. Anything else kind of major? That's sort of two biggies. The concept of small group training sessions, so small workshops, individualised one-on-one, so that you've got that peer-to-peer and you've also got that opportunity for very custom sort of focused learning to sort of meet those particular needs that have been identified in the digital plan that you've done. Is that good? Okay.
Okay, lots of robust discussion on our table. One of the things probably before we got to the issues, but something we had a conversation about, which was around taking the step before the digital side of things, and it's really making sure that you understand your brand and you know your brand personality and your brand, the way your brand would behave, and then choosing channels and social channels to actually suit your brand. Because one of the issues that we came up with was around delegating this to other staff. And if you can't give them clear guidelines around how your brand behaves, it makes it very difficult to get it out of your head and into someone else's hands to actually then take up. So that was and also the difference between your personal level of comfort with social media. You might be very introverted and very private, but your business might behave differently to your own personal behaviour. So we had interesting conversation around that. So the key issues really from our perspective around getting started. What if you're not even on the radar yet? So and the varying degrees of capability, comfort and progress and stages. We also talked about plans and digital marketing plans. Knowledge building and knowledge training and having access to that in remote locations, very similar to what's already been discussed. And around time and resourcing, again, just having setting the time aside and making this part of your daily plan and part of somebody's task. And connectivity also came up there as well. The other thing too that we talked about was benchmarking and understanding what good and great looks like, that opportunities for sharing that, and that probably comes through in solutions. So in terms of solutions, auditing, having access to be able to self-audit, and then portals and things like that of tools that people could self-skill and self-upskill. Also, community-based, as Liz was talking about before, having access to communities where you could share ideas, and that done also the availability of one-on-one training. Similar to, I think, the grants that were done previously, but potentially as a package. I think someone else mentioned before, Mitch, about packages and access to potentially digital agencies and things like that could be done on a very customised solution base. And again, just forums for forums for benchmarking, so that people knew once they'd actually been through round one, it's not a set and forget, that they actually, we're on a path to stage 2 or stage 5 or whatever it happens to be, but understanding when you'd reach that and then when to move to the next stage, but also that you don't then close off stage 1, you actually keep revisiting. It's about building foundations and keeping revisiting the foundations over time. So they were sort of our key things, but certainly everyone had a very high level of comfort with things being digitally delivered, in terms of training and upskilling and those sorts of things.
So a couple of things to start off with. I'm seeing a similar discussion points, definitely around training, but we were actually looking at time and resources a lot, and we know that a lot of time is taken out to attend events like this. So we were actually brainstorming what else we could do in terms of managing the time and resources. So that was a key for us, definitely time management, what should take priority, and whether it's what you're doing on your social media platforms, how much time do you need to manage that, how much time should you be taking to manage that. Another thing was definitely measuring. So we had a big discussion on Google Analytics and actually how to interpret the data and how to train your staff to interpret the data, so it's not just owned by one person in the business. There was definitely a discussion on the Blix data as well, and how to interpret that data when it does become available, how that will be seen by the regions and the businesses. And knowledge building was also another, probably our third key point. So definitely understanding that as much as we can get as much training in the world, things are changing constantly. So whether we did a training today on TripAdvisor, to be honest, next month or maybe in 3 months' time, something's going to change. So how to make sure that information is regularly distributed to you, because you won't know what has actually changed before. Maybe you'll see a news article or something out there or speak to a friend, but these programs that we're discussing today are changing so regularly that if we were looking at anything to manage time and resources, we would have to look at doing it consistently. So those are the key points. And then the solutions I've kind of already been through, but definitely a focus on SEO, and Google Analytics was our key. The webinars, looking at, actually we did discuss measuring, so understanding the data from Tourism NT, so whether there could be more information in the newsletters and things, just to update you on the data that they're seeing in the market. Getting access to quarterly reports to understand how that affects your region and your business. And then actually collaboration was something that we were discussing. So whether the industry collaborates and starts discussing things like distribution. So we were actually discussing, has anyone ever told each other which channel manager you use? Has that ever happened before?
It happens all the time on the Tourism Tribe forum.
Great.
They all
Excellent.
discuss what is good and bad about different
Yeah.
software platforms.
Yeah, that's what we were discussing. Has anyone ever told the person sitting next to them what system they use? And I'm not saying do it right now, but that information sharing, so it potentially avoids a disaster for the other business that didn't know this system wasn't working for them. Potentially they had to change systems 3 times. We don't really know this information, so if we collaborate a little bit more, we could actually help each other and hopefully be attracting more bookings for all of us in the industry. So those are a couple of key points. Thank you.
Okay, so we had a lot of common themes that everyone's already brought up, and we had a lot of discussions around a lot of things. But I guess a lot of the key themes that kept coming up for us was time, again, cost, and the cost of things. We had a couple of not-for-profit organisations on our table, and the challenges they faced were very different to others. And then knowledge as well, knowledge sharing. We discussed a mentoring program again, which is part of our solutions. But they were probably the key factors that were behind a lot of the issues that we were facing. All right. So collaboration came up a lot on our table. We had a couple of different art galleries on our table, and individually they didn't have a lot of time, a lot of extra funds to be spending on a lot of different things. So, we had the idea of getting together a lot of similar organisations and all putting in together to achieve a common goal. So that was one thing that we were discussing. We were discussing collaboration with other parts of the industry. So I know it sounds ridiculous, but NT News, is all over the place, and you turn on the news in the US we were talking about, and NT News has got all this stuff all over the media there. So is it collaborating with different forms of industry to get your stuff out there? We discussed with the mentoring program, or maybe it's a digital help desk that's based locally that helps support you and keep you up to date with the new things to look out for and the new things to be aware of. Have I missed anything, team? That's it? Cool beans. Thank you.
I mean, focus areas for us were definitely in geo-targeted ads. We thought we could do a lot better with being more targeted. But there's so many options. That was what's stopping us. There's just so many things to cover off. It's just almost too hard. So the prioritisation is probably pretty important. Hard copy, still important. You know, digital, yes, but let's be clear that, you know, some of our grey nomads don't necessarily, the more convenient medium is print or some kind of hard copy or face-to-face or word, like, as in literally just talking to someone. Yet, you know, you've also got grey nomads who are using wiki camps and things like that. So, again, keeping up, but we wanted to make sure that we don't forget that there is a digital way to do better jobs for print. So connectivity, getting out into more places, you know, doing it once rather than doing it 10 times across 10 platforms. It's just, again, it's too much to keep up with. So how do we get one entry to many rather than 10 entries to 10? And we talked a bit about just knowing which were those platforms whether it's worthwhile getting into. I think DIY isn't easy. I think it was a really important one for us. Like DIY is kind of the thing we thought was a clear focus. Like if you don't, to Mitch's point, if you don't know the business, it's really hard to be the digital person doing the business. We have that in Tourism and Tea. Like we've got digital teams who don't necessarily know the product. It makes it really hard for them to do work on a website when they don't know which product they need to talk about or need to place up or need to work with. But they know the technical side. So they're two different skill sets. So merging that together is one of the complex things that's stopping us from just being great, you know, from day one. The gap between digital and real was a really important thing for us as well. So we can get measures, we can get things, and I think the benchmarking stuff is on our list as well. But how do you know that digital impression got a visitor? And there's a bit of new technology coming through which helps you do that through mobile. I'm sure Google will be having some of them, but certainly Facebook has new ads that allow you to link your ad to what happens in store. And so things like that are coming, which might help us with the measurement. But what it sort of came back was if you don't know about it, you don't know what to know to then know about it, then you've got no chance. And there's too many things to know. So it was funny that knowledge is becoming a key thing. And we debated really quite a lot about, well, can't you just go to YouTube and do it? Can't you? It's all free. You don't have to worry about getting a digital mentor or a digital coach. I just put up there what I want to know. I've got the moment I've got. Help me. The problem is that we found if it's not qualified and not contextual to tourism, it's sort of not right. And people don't want to know about it unless it's right for them right now. I don't want to waste 5 minutes of my time working out that it wasn't right. That's sort of, so can someone else spend that time working out that it's not right or is right? And that's probably where the mentoring or the qualification of knowledge is really important. So that was that leads us to sort of a few different solutions, but we summed them up. A balanced level of collaborative approach. So yes, working with operators together with RTOs and just making sure we've got the right balance of how you do it, because sometimes it's not about collaborating. Sometimes you get sucked into collaboration spaces and it doesn't actually help you. Sometimes you need to be by yourself doing your own thing, and sometimes you need to be collaborative. But there's a lot of ways that we can do it better, there's no doubt. Specific qualified knowledge. So we talked a lot about sort of smaller groups and more specificity. So yes, running a monthly session that is about that one thing rather than a general broad view of social media that doesn't give you anything. So it's about smaller, more specific things. And then time and resources was about, yes, we want one-on-one in my business, because it's very different trying to tell someone over the phone how to do a Facebook ad when you go and do it for real and you realise the distractions you have and what's in front of you and the camera doesn't work, that photo's not quite the right size, I need to resize that now. You realise there's about 10 things that you don't have that are stopping you from doing it properly that the consultant has no idea to help you with. They just said, you should put an ad in. That's not the problem. And I've certainly, for a very recent presentation I did up in Darwin, I said, let's do a Facebook promo kind of thing and show off what you can do with all new geo-targeting technology for a clothing retailer. And we tried to then go and do the ads, and we found we were just completely distracted wasn't working, couldn't resize the picture right, it looked terrible on the screen, wasn't working quite right, and that took us 2 or 3 hours to get that through. It was only supposed to take half an hour, and so time, it's not real until you actually do it. So I think, again, so it's about one-on-one in reality. I think we were talking about, like, do it in the person's business, or make it work in that person's business, and then move it to a DIY kind of space. We can't sustain one-on-one mentors necessarily, but we need to make it so DIY becomes a part of the way you do things for small to medium operators, at least anyway, people who know the business, rather than a digital person that you outsource it to, because it may not work. That was what we had. Thank you.
All right, so ultimately what we want to achieve out of all this, and I think Tourism NT have made it pretty clear that you want to be able to continue the growth in this space as an operator after the funding stops. The old saying that, give a person a fish, feed them for a day, teach them to fish, feed them for a lifetime. I guess that that principle is very true, particularly when you want to take ownership of your own business and push it along. And obviously you don't want things to stop, you want continuity. So we, excuse me, we went through and of course identified various means of promotion with the RTO magazines and things like that, Google Ads, Instagram, and trying to create a collective voice. And you have many partners to do that, feeding them the right message. And the understanding of how to target your market, knowing that as far as listings, knowing what and where, what to put where, and that comes down to having the time to do it and experience. Having knowledge building, once again, associating with professionals in the industry as has been put forward, but also having meetings amongst operators to ensure that you're all sort of on the same track, and sharing info and referrals. So if someone's in your business as your customer, trying to prolong their stay, their spend, all that sort of stuff, sending them elsewhere, increasing their visiting experience, and then that translates to more time spent in the region and more money in the overall state. All right, measuring. How did you hear about us? Where do you find out? Where are you from? They're key things that we found in our business. So if you do some advertising, it's 2 simple questions: collating that data and putting it into a measurable form. Then you can come back to what you've spent and what has worked and what hasn't. It's pretty important to understand that. And TripAdvisor is a good one for that. And then time and resources, just allocating time. So we all take time to do certain things throughout our day, slot it in there as an extra. If you've got staff sitting on the front counter or whatever, allocating a portion of their time in between guests or visitors or phone calls to actually focus and getting the technical support. So we come up with a few solutions for it, and multiple ticks means a popular one. Obviously, in the ads, business on practical issues and applications of digital platforms. We've been through that. We've got experts in the field that we can consult. Top 5 pages to be connected with small businesses. So trying to, once again, collaborate the businesses in certain genres or types of business, and them working together rather than as competitors. I'm going to read through here. Google Analytics, Google Words, hashtags, ultimately understanding what keywords are going to work for your business. Brainstorming is how you do it. Take your staff out, sit down, talk on site or in a space that promotes the creativity and insights into your business to identify those keywords that sort of are synonymous with your business, with the experiences that people get, and the hashtags that go with that. So choosing a hashtag that people can continue to use right through. So Instagram and our part of the world, we hashtag our photos for our particular business, but we also hashtag Southern Great Barrier Reef, love what you do, all these other things. So it goes into multiple areas within the Instagram platform. Listings and distribution. This is a big one for our business, is that I actually allocated time for staff to sit down and trawl through every little bit of scrap of information, website information that is out there on our business. Websites are, they just sort of hang in cyberspace, out of date. People eventually find them. They come to your business. If something's changed in your business, they look at it and say, what are you talking about? Going through and correcting that information was pretty much a starting point for where we started with what we're doing, making sure that every website that people could stumble across, link to, whatever, has the same correct information, because things are always changing, and keeping a track of who's sharing your information and making sure they share the correct information. Otherwise, customer experience is you want to oversell and basically you don't want to say you can do more than you can, and that way if you deliver more expectation than you promise in your promotion, you're going to have a happy customer. If it's the other way around, you may end up with negative feedback. And knowledge building, so there's lots here.
Just go to a final one, mate.
Final one, just moving along, all right?
Yeah.
You get the idea, it's all there. More Wi-Fi around the town, not just in hotel and visitors centres, so making sure people are able to connect and get on those sharing sites so they can share their experiences and recommend, because it is ultimately word of mouth. Thank you, Adam.
Just quickly cover what's next, because we won't get an opportunity to talk to you guys again. But really just want to highlight our next steps, and as you can see on the screen, our opportunity at the moment is to really compile all the information during these workshops, report back to on our results to our CE with some recommendations, and develop a bit of strategy moving forward pretty much from kind of December onwards. I really want to start rolling some of these solutions out to you guys from sort of February, March, right through till, which obviously, it's opportunity based because it's a little quieter, but it'll just continue to scroll through that. So watch this space. We'll come back to you guys. What we want to do, and we'll communicate. We've got all your emails and your contacts, how we're going to progress in this space. We'll keep you in the loop. We've got you on our CRM now, and we want to give you guys the opportunity and reward you for actually attending these workshops. We'll give you the first bite of the cherry when we start delivering some of the solutions. So from that perspective, I think it's, from our side, it's a show of appreciation that you guys have spent a fair bit of your day here in doing that.
Oh yeah, from my point of view, this is one of, won't show this session would go. We jammed a lot into it, so I really appreciate your time and your energy, because it was about getting input from operators rather than us just making stuff up and trying to sell it to you. And from, it's a fairly big portion of money, and we've tried a few different things and they've been pretty successful, but how do we get it really right? And today is just an eye-opener for me. It would have been great to walk out of here with one thing we need to do and it's going to solve everyone's problems, but that is impossible. But you can sort of see that it's the simple things, and making things easier and simpler, not making it more and more and more, is sort of what I'm more taking away with it personally. And I don't think it's that hard to create a system from what I've heard here. I don't think it's hard to use the money, the 500,000, make it work. And I hope there's a bit of money left over to actually go and spend on pushing some traffic at an operator level through the systems that you're trying to get going. So we get some marketing money as well, not just knowledge money, but marketing money that actually drives some visitation and drives some conversion. So, we're really, really conscious of spending this the right way. There'll always be money that we're going to be spending on behalf of the whole industry with Tourism and Tea, pushing people into Google, into Facebook, into places where they're searching for your business. So you don't have to worry about that, but how you capture that and maximise it and have this knowledge base or have this time and resource to help you get the digital leap that you need and bring the whole industry along for the ride is really the goal. So, this will be a key program for us. That's all I can say. There were some good suggestions around webinars and things like that as well, but for networking you can't beat face-to-face sometimes. So I think what we try and do, for example, we try to line this up with the, I'm looking through the camera at you here, trying to line it up with the awards night, so we knew people would be in town normally, so you could get 2 for 1 kind of thing. So we do think of that as best we can.
Are you talking flights though?
Yeah. Right. Kind of.
Travelling to Alice, yeah. Look, it is it's a barrier. There is no question. When Adam, from his level, when he's looking at international and domestic marketing, and he looks at some of those key barriers from a consumer's perspective, that is absolutely one of them. We're acutely aware of it. There isn't a simple answer with that. The airlines dictate the cost. Government generally does try to incentivise through marketing cooperative campaigns to entice airlines to get here. And obviously we work in that package space where sometimes, from a package, when there is a deal out, that the value for money is there and people jump on that, which is fantastic. But there isn't a simple answer for us to write a letter to Qantas and say, we think you're a bit too expensive. It's not going to happen.
It's probably worthwhile just noting that, for example, Air Pass is going to be a huge project for us, so you can buy a walkabout pass, a Qantas walkabout pass, or a Virgin and Singapore Airlines Air Pass, and you can add on Alice Springs to Adelaide for $90 off the back of an international flight. You can add Alice Springs to Sydney or Melbourne for about $129 through Qantas, and that's not really made aware in the international market very well. So we're going to go out of our way through platforms like TripAdvisor and Google to make sure when people are searching for trips to Australia that they are aware how to add on the NT. So that's one thing. And we also, at a domestic level, whenever there's a sale fair, all of our ads have the ability to be changed within hours. So every time there's a sale fair, one of our team members, Heather, she basically trawls looking for sale fairs, and when they come through, which we don't control those ones, we get out and we change all of our ads to make sure that's being promoted. And then how we add on Uluru, like Jetstar $99 flights, Alice Springs to that. So there's those things. And the last one is that we do have co-op fares that we do negotiate for certain times and certain dates to get cheaper fares by about $30 to $40 typically per person. And what we don't do and what we haven't done and what we need to do off the back of this discussion is make sure the industry at large is aware of when we're doing those co-op campaigns, as long as you can keep it secret, which is a little bit hard to do, but be aware of those campaigns to go, hey, I've got my database here, collective database of probably 100,000 people on your databases. Tell them, whether it be locals or people who have visited before, tell your friends and family to go and book the cheap flight and come and do what I did. We don't do that very well. So again, without having to get a cheap fare, there's still room to move to actually get people here. So that's an example of what we're trying to do.